Hi Year 3, we've got our final RE lesson today, and our final festival that we're going to be looking at is Pesach or Passover, which is a very important Jewish festival. Now it is celebrated in the springtime, similar to when Christians celebrate Easter. And it's when Jewish people remember how the people of Israel left slavery behind them when they were led out of Egypt by Moses over 3,000 years ago. The story of Passover is very important to Jewish people, so let's have a listen to it. When Moses was born, the Israelites were slaves in Egypt. The Pharaoh was afraid of them because he thought they might take over his country. He ordered his soldiers to kill all the Israelite baby boys at birth, so they would not grow up and fight him. To save Moses, his mother made a plan. She put him in a basket and set him adrift on the river Nile, and left his fate to God's will. Moses floated down the river, where the Pharaoh's daughter found him and rescued him. She brought him back to the palace and raised him as her son. Many years later, Moses was walking in the desert, and he heard the voice of God near a burning bush. God asked Moses to lead his people out of slavery in Egypt to the promised land. Moses returned to Egypt and asked the Pharaoh to free his people. The Pharaoh said no, because he did not want to lose his slaves. God was angry and punished the Egyptians with 10 terrible plagues. God changed the water of the river to blood. Then he sent swarms of frogs, lice, fleas, and locusts. God sent hail, boils, and killed the Egyptians' animals. After each plague, Moses went to ask the Pharaoh to free his people, but every time he refused. In the 10th plague, the eldest son in every family died. Even the Pharaoh's own son died. But God told Moses to tell the Israelites to mark their doorposts with lamb's blood so that they would be safe. This was how the angel of death would know to pass over their houses and not hurt the Israelites' sons by mistake. And this is why the festival is called Passover. Finally, after this plague, the Pharaoh gave in and told the Israelites to go. Afraid the Pharaoh might change his mind, they left at once, and they left in such a rush that their bread did not have time to rise. And this is why, during Passover, Jewish people still eat crispy bread called matzah. Okay, so Passover is celebrated for 7 or 8 days, and a special service called Seder happens on the evening before Passover begins. This takes place with family and friends over a special meal called the Seder meal. At the Seder meal, a special plate called the Seder plate is used, and the plate has 5 sections to hold some special Seder foods.
Passover celebrates the Jewish people's escape from slavery in Egypt as told in Exodus. The Seder plate is the meal's centerpiece, and each item holds symbolic meaning. Zeroah. The shank bone represents the lamb sacrificed at the Temple of Jerusalem during celebration. Beit Sah. An egg also represents the Passover sacrifice, as well as the cycle of life. Charoset. This paste, made of apples, nuts, and wine, resembles the bricks and mortar the Jewish slaves were forced to make. Maror. A bitter herb, usually horseradish, represents the bitterness of slavery in Egypt. Karpas. A leafy vegetable is dipped in salt water to represent the tears of the Jewish people. Chazeret. Another bitter herb, eaten with charoset and matzah.
Okay, so as you just saw then, the food on the Seder plate reminds Jewish people about what life was like in Egypt. Now in your home learning pack, you have got a blank plate, and I want you to choose 5 foods that would remind you of home if you had to go to another country. So it might be yummy cakes that your nana might make, or a delicious Sunday roast that you eat with your family. It's completely up to you, and everyone's will probably be very different. Okay, so well done for this week, guys. We've learned lots about different festivals and celebrations from different religions. I will see you next week for some more home learning videos. Have a good weekend.